Ever imagine using music to actually make a difference? We're talking about helping people, tapping into emotions all through music. And that's what this deep dive is prepping you for, to land that music therapist job.
It really is such a unique blend of skill sets. It's your musical talent, but also your empathy, your ability to connect on a deeper level.
You got it. We've got your RoleCatcher guides right here, career overview, interview prep, the works. But today, it's about acing those interview questions. Ready? Let's make some noise.
Let's dive in. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI, it's like a secret weapon for your prep. We'll unpack that a bit later.
Okay, so picture this. You're face-to-face with the hiring manager, and they hit you with, can you tell us about your experience working with diverse populations?
See, here, they're not just looking for a list of patient demographics. They
Exactly.
want to see if you get how to adapt. It's about cultural sensitivity, meeting people where they are musically.
Instead of just saying, well, I've worked with kids and I've worked with older adults, you really want to paint that picture right. Talk about connecting with someone from a different cultural background through music, or how you adjusted your approach for someone with, say, limited mobility.
100%. Specific examples, those make your experience come alive. And honestly, don't shy away from challenges. Like maybe a time you had to learn about a whole musical tradition to better connect with a client.
Showing initiative, always a good thing. Okay, let's say the interviewer digs a little deeper. Can you discuss your experience working with children with special needs?
This is where your genuine passion for helping everyone shines through. Now, be honest about your experience. If you've worked with specific diagnoses, fantastic. But if not, focus on your willingness to learn and adapt.
Right. And maybe highlight any specialized training.
Yeah.
Child development, sensory integration, those kinds of things. It shows you're not just a musician, you're a therapist who gets the complexities.
Yes. And approach this question with sensitivity, always. Always with respect.
Absolutely. Okay, switching gears a bit. Imagine they ask, how do you develop and implement these individualized treatment plans?
This is where I think being a musician and a therapist really comes together. They want to see you assess needs, design a plan, and adapt. Just like like a jazz musician riffs.
I love that analogy. Okay, so walk them through your process. Do you use certain assessment tools? How do you observe their responses to different kinds of music? This is showcasing your clinical judgment?
Yes. And mention any standardized assessments you use. The music therapy assessment tool for children, for example. That helps measure a child's musical responses.
Those details matter. And don't forget to mention working with other healthcare professionals, right? You're part of a team.
Absolutely, 100%. You could say, for instance, well, I always start with a comprehensive assessment, taking into account their medical history, emotional state, and of course, their musical preferences. And then I collaborate with the treatment team, doctors, therapists, family members, to make a plan that aligns with their overall goals.
See, now you're speaking their language.
Yeah.
You're thinking holistically, working towards that best possible outcome.
Speaking of outcomes, let's talk about those trickier questions about measuring effectiveness.
You mean how do you know if a section is actually working? That kind of thing.
Exactly. It's not always about tangible results.
Right.
Sometimes it's these subtle shifts in behavior, emotional expression, or even just a moment of connection.
So how do you get that across in an interview?
Talk about how you track progress, observation, client feedback, even standardized measures.
Don't be afraid to get specific. For example, I check in with clients about their experience. I track their progress towards their goals. I use observation and standardized measures.
And you're showing them you're data-driven. That adds credibility.
Exactly. We've covered a lot.
Yeah.
But before we jump into more questions, let's look at the career side for our listeners. What are the different stages of a music therapist's career? Luckily, RoleCatcher's Guide has some insights.
It's a field with a lot of different paths. Typically, though, you'd start entry level. You're assisting senior therapists, kind of like an apprenticeship. You get hands-on experience, observe.
So you're making a real impact even early on. What happens as you gain experience? What's next?
Well, as you become a, say, junior therapist, you'll probably start conducting your own sessions, developing treatment plans, collaborating more independently. Then, senior music therapist, you might lead sessions, supervise, even mentor. Some get into research or advocacy.
Wow. So many directions. And continuous learning is important, right? Staying up to date.
Absolutely. Certifications like the Board Certified Music Therapist, the MTBC, those boost your credibility too.
Nurturing your passion, your expertise all throughout your career.
Yes. And for a closer look at those stages, the potential salary ranges, RoleCatcher's Guide has got you covered.
It's like having a career roadmap. Speaking of roadmaps, we've got more interview questions to cover to make sure you're ready for anything. All right, back into the hot seat. Imagine the interviewer says, can you describe your experience with, different music therapy techniques?
Now they're opening up your musical toolbox. They want to see versatility, what's your comfort zone, and how does that connect to the client?
Right, it's not just playing an instrument.
Right.
There's improvisation, songwriting, receptive music listening, music paired with imagery. Each one has its strengths, right?
Yeah, and you want to connect those strengths to the therapy goals. Like you could say improvisation, that's huge for self-expression, especially if someone's not comfortable, like talking about their feelings directly.
It's like music gives them this other language.
Exactly. While, say, songwriting, that can be so powerful for processing trauma, exploring tough emotions, but in a safe way.
Such a powerful tool. Another question they love, how do you establish rapport, build that therapeutic relationship?
This goes way beyond just being a musician, doesn't it? It's empathy, it's listening, creating that trust.
It's that human connection through music.
Right. And a great way to answer, a story. Think about a time you connected with a client on a deeper level. Maybe you had a shared musical interest, or even just, being there during the session.
Storytelling, so powerful. For example, I worked with this child. He was nonverbal, but by watching how he reacted to different musical stuff, I realized he loved the cello. So we started using it, and it became this amazing way for him to, express himself.
See, that's impactful. It shows sensitivity, observation, you adapt to their needs, all in a quick story.
It comes alive. Now, shifting gears to the team aspect of music therapy, can you describe your experience working in, a team environment?
Teamwork time. We're often part of a bigger care team, right?
Exactly.
So you want to really highlight those communication skills, how you listen to other pros, work towards that goal together.
Right. Be specific. Don't just say, I'm a team player. You give an example.
Right.
Did you work with an OT, like incorporating music into sensory activities? Or a speech therapist, integrating music into their sessions?
Yeah, those are great.
You could say, for instance, in my last role at a rehab center, I worked with a physiotherapist. We used rhythmic music to help patients regain motor skills, coordination, seeing our expertise combined, leading to those better outcomes. That was amazing.
There you go. You're not just telling them, you're showing them. That example really illustrates it.
Teamwork. Okay, one more before we switch gears again. They'll want to see your problem solving. So be ready for something like, tell us about a challenging case you worked on and how you approached it.
This is where you shine. Pick a case that shows your clinical judgment and your ability to, think outside the box a bit.
Yeah, walk them through it. What were the obstacles? How did you assess things? What strategies did you use? Did you have to adjust along the way?
And it's good to talk about what you learned from it. Maybe a technique just didn't work and you had to adapt. That shows you're always learning, always refining what you do.
You could say, for example, I was working with this young adult struggling with PTSD. He totally rejected music at first. So instead of forcing it, I started with nature sounds and very slowly introduced music that was more about, calm, safety. Over time, he started engaging more. Eventually, he was even using drumming as an outlet.
Powerful. You showed empathy, creative problem solving, and meeting the client where they're at.
Okay, we've tackled some tough ones. Before we do our final round, let's loop back to RoleCatcher's AI. Remember how we said it's like that secret weapon for interview prep?
Oh, yeah. It's like having a virtual coach, analyzes job descriptions, finds the key skills, even gives feedback on your answers, all for the specific role you want. That's RoleCatcher's AI.
Amazing. Okay, so say our listener is going for a music therapist position in a children's hospital. How does RoleCatcher's AI help them, nail those responses?
It's so easy to use. You put in the job description, RoleCatcher's AI gets to work. It kicks out those keywords, phrases that show what the employer really wants. Maybe it's experience with play therapy or certain conditions.
So it's like you get a peek into the hiring manager's head.
Yeah. And the best part, you can then practice your answers using RoleCatcher's AI to common questions. And you get feedback on your delivery, the content, all of it.
A personalized coach at your fingertips.
Exactly. It's about boosting that confidence so you walk into the interview ready to shine.
What a tool. Ready for the final act of our interview deep dive? We've got some good ones left. Buckle up. Back for the final round of our music therapist interview prep.
And honestly, you've got this. Let's say they throw you a curveball, like Tell me about a time you had to, adapt your musical approach for a client who just wasn't into music therapy at first.
Oh, I like this one. It's all about flexibility, right? Thinking on your feet. It's pretty common, actually, for people to be a little unsure about music therapy, especially if they've never done it.
So how do you show them you can handle that? Gracefully, sensitively.
First, acknowledge their perspective. They might be feeling vulnerable, skeptical, just not sure what to expect. Then walk them through how you built that trust, how you found that common ground, which might not even be music right away. Maybe it's bringing in their favorite bands, songs into a conversation, or even just listening together, having them share how they feel.
Yeah, exactly. You could say, I worked with this teenager. He did not want to do talk therapy. Turns out, huge hip hop fan. So we started, digging into the lyrics of his favorite songs, and that opened up this whole conversation about his emotions, what he was going through.
Well, talk about breaking down those walls. You're meeting them where they are, adapting to what they need.
Right, and that's key for a good music therapist, that ability to adapt.
For sure. Okay, before we wrap up, any last bits of wisdom for our soon-to-be music therapists as they head into that interview?
It's more than just, skills and experience. It's about your passion for this, your empathy, that you really believe in music, that it can heal, it can change lives.
Let that passion shine through. Be yourself.
100%. And hey, if you're listening to this after your interview, that's okay. Never too late to start planning that next step. RoleCatcher's here for you, whether you're just starting out or you've been doing this for a while.
It's like having that career coach in your pocket.
Well said. That wraps up our music therapist interview deep dive. We hope you feel ready, prepared to go make some beautiful music in your career. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and rock those interviews.